Friday weddings are supposed to feel like soft light and clean beginnings. Ours felt like a stage with a trapdoor. The venue was a restored courthouse that somebody had turned into rustic elegance, which is code for old brick, string lights, and chairs that look good in photos but punish your spine. The air smelled like champagne, hairspray, and the faint panic of people who paid too much for flowers. I stood at the front with my hands folded the way men do when they're trying not to fidget. I'd practiced a calm face in the mirror that morning. Not because I was nervous, because she liked to tease me when I looked too earnest. Like sincerity was a stain. My fiancée, Nora, walked in late on purpose. Not running behind, late. Late like a headline. Her dress fit like a promise. Her smile fit like a filter. Beside the aisle, her best friend Tessa held her phone up at chest level, pretending she was just recording for memories. The phone lens stared at me like an unblinking eye. Tessa's thumb hovered, ready to pinch zoom on my humiliation if it came. I clocked it, filed it away, told myself, it's fine. Everyone records weddings now. The officiant, a friendly guy with careful hands and a voice like a customer service rep, cleared his throat and asked the guests to rise. I watched Nora approach, and I had the stupid thought that maybe I'd been wrong. Maybe the last few months, her new girls' nights, the way she started turning her phone face down, the jokes that used to be playful but lately landed sharp. Maybe all of that was just stress. Wedding stress, life stress, modern stress. Pick a stress. She reached me, took my hands. Her palms were cold. The officiant began the usual script about love and partnership. The guests smiled like they were watching a trailer for a happy ending. Then he asked the question. Do you, Nora? I didn't hear the rest. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. Because I watched her eyes flick quick to Tessa's phone, and Nora said, bright and clear, like she was reading a line, no. There was a beat where the room didn't understand the sound it had just heard. Then it landed. Somebody laughed. One of those reflex laughs people do when their brains can't decide whether something is a joke or a disaster. Another guest inhaled so hard it sounded like they'd been slapped. A woman in the third row whispered, "Oh my God," with the pleased horror of someone receiving gossip in real time. The officiant froze. His smile cracked, then tried to reassemble itself. Nora, he said carefully, like he was talking to a dog near traffic. Are you certain? Nora's mouth twitched. She bit the inside of her cheek like she was trying not to laugh. Her eyes flicked again to the phone. Tessa's camera didn't move. It didn't have to. It already had everything. And that's when I understood. This wasn't nerves. This was content. I felt something hot rise up my chest. A kind of clean anger that didn't shake my hands. It made everything sharper instead. Sound, color, faces. Like the world had adjusted its focus. Nora leaned in, just enough for me to smell her perfume and the mint on her breath. Babe, she whispered, playful, it's a prank. For TikTok. It'll be hilarious. Say something funny. It was always amazing to me how some people could break you and still expect you to perform. The officiant looked between us, confused, trying to rescue the moment with politeness. We can take a pause, he offered. If there's any uncertainty, we should... Tessa's eyes were on me now, not Nora, waiting for the reaction shot. The money shot, the man being made small. I didn't give it to her. I stared at Nora for one long second, and in that second, I made a decision so simple it felt like stepping off a curb. I released her hands. Not dramatically, just let go. Then I turned slightly, reached for the microphone on the stand, and lifted it like I'd been doing it my whole life. The sound system popped. Heads snapped up. The room leaned forward without realizing it. Humans are wired for spectacle. We pretend we're not, but our bodies betray us. I smiled. Not because it was funny, because a smile is a weapon when people expect you to bleed. Hey, I said into the mic, my voice calm enough to make it worse. Quick update. Nora's face changed. Not fear, confusion. She hadn't planned for me to take the steering wheel. I looked out at the guests, the coworkers, the cousins, the friends of friends who barely knew my name but would remember my humiliation forever if I let them. So, I continued, it turns out today isn't a wedding, it's an experiment. A few nervous chuckles. The officiant blinked, still trying to figure out his role in the new script. And I don't know about you, I said, letting the pause stretch. But I hate wasting good food. That got a real laugh. Not everyone, but enough. I angled my head toward the dessert table, where the cake sat like a smug, expensive cloud. "We already paid for the venue," I said. "The bar is stocked. The DJ is contractually obligated to play something embarrassing at least twice, and you're all dressed up." I took another beat, because timing matters more than volume. "So here's what we're going to do instead." Nora's eyes widened a fraction. Tessa's phone stayed locked on me. Her thumb hovered, excited now. She could feel the clip getting better. I nodded toward the crowd. "Welcome," I said, like a host on opening night, "to the most unexpected singles mixer this courthouse has ever seen." The room made a sound, half laughter, half shock, the kind of noise people make when a social rule snaps and they're not sure if they're allowed to enjoy it. I kept my voice warm, friendly, deadly. "If you came here for romance," I said, "good news. It's still on the menu, just not the version advertised." A few people clapped, uncertain at first, then more, because applause is contagious, and most people would rather join a moment than resist it. I turned my head slightly toward Nora without fully facing her. "And for anyone wondering," I added, "yes, this was a prank, but I'm not the punchline." That line landed like a glass dropped on stone. You could feel it in the room, the shift, the realization that something had just changed in a way it couldn't unchange. Nora grabbed my arm, nails digging in, the smile on her face still trying to survive. "Stop," she hissed, still playing for the camera. "You're overreacting." I leaned toward the mic again, and my tone stayed polite. "One more thing," I said. "The cake is fair game. The dance floor is open. If you drove here with someone you're not legally related to, congratulations, you're already ahead." The officiant cleared his throat, helpless. I think we should..." I handed him the mic gently, like returning a borrowed tool. "Thanks," I told him. "You were great." Then I stepped back, and I did the one thing Nora didn't expect. I didn't argue. I didn't beg. I didn't demand an explanation. I walked down the aisle alone, past the guests who suddenly couldn't decide whether to look at me with pity or respect or fear. I heard whispers bloom behind me like mold in a damp room. At the doors, I paused, just long enough to turn and raise my glass toward the crowd. "Enjoy the party," I said. "Seriously." Then I pushed open the heavy courthouse doors and stepped out into the evening air. Outside, Nora came after me fast, heels clicking like anger. Her face was wet already, mascara starting to betray her. Tessa trailed behind, still recording, because of course she did. The camera loved a breakdown. "You ruined it," Nora sobbed, and for a second she sounded genuinely shocked, like she couldn't believe the world hadn't protected her. I looked at her, really looked. "You ruined it," I corrected gently. "I just didn't help you edit." She slapped my chest. Not hard, just enough to feel like she'd done something. "You're being cruel," she said. I let out a small laugh. I couldn't help it. The situation was too clean. "Cruel is making your vows into a trend," I said. "Cruel is needing strangers to watch you disrespect someone so you can feel alive for 15 seconds. Her mouth opened, then closed. She had no script for this. She'd only planned for me to play the role she wrote. Behind her, the muffled music kicked back in. The party had resumed. People were eating her cake. Nora heard it too. Her face twisted, not heartbreak. Rage. Because the attention had moved on without her. "I can fix this," she said, wiping her cheeks, voice sharpening. "We can redo it. Tell them it was..." I held up a hand. "No," I said, calm as a locked door. The word hit her harder than any slap could have. She stared at me, breath hitching, then turned and stumbled away toward the parking lot, shoulders shaking. Tessa followed, whispering frantic encouragement while still filming. Because when your friend is collapsing, the most important thing is to keep your battery above 20%. I stayed outside a moment longer, listening to the laughter inside, the DJ warming up the room like nothing had happened. Then I went back in. Not to forgive, to observe, to collect. Because when someone shows you who they are in public, you'd be foolish not to pay attention to what they do in private afterward. I walked through clusters of guests pretending not to stare. A woman I barely knew patted my arm like I was a charity case. A man from my side of the aisle handed me a drink and muttered, "That was impressive." I nodded like it was no big deal. Inside, I smiled, made small talk, let them keep dancing. I let the moment breathe long enough to become a story people would tell later with their own little embellishments. Then I slipped away to the coat room where Nora had left her bag. I didn't rummage. I didn't need to. Her phone was half zipped into the side pocket, screen dark, innocent. But her purse shifted when I moved it. and something inside buzzed. A quick vibration, then another, like a heartbeat trying to hide. A second phone. Cheap case, not her usual style. It lit up through the thin fabric just long enough for me to read 3 words on the lock screen. "You good, babe?" No name, just the message, and beneath it, a missed call. I didn't touch it. I didn't need to. I simply stared at the glow fading back into darkness, and I felt the courthouse around me, music, laughter, glasses clinking, turn a little colder. Because now I knew. Today wasn't the beginning of my marriage. It was the beginning of my revenge. And whoever was calling that hidden phone was about to learn what happens when you mistake a quiet man for a harmless one. Nora didn't come back inside. Not really. Her body did, eventually, 10 minutes later, cheeks scrubbed raw with paper towels, eyes bright and hard like she'd weaponized the crying into something sharper. She walked in with her chin up, like she was the one who'd been wronged, like the courthouse owed her an apology for not following the script. Tessa floated behind her, phone still in hand, smiling too wide. That smile said, "We can still salvage the clip." Nora spotted me near the bar, where I'd planted myself like a neutral piece of furniture. She slid in close enough that the guests couldn't hear her, but not so close it looked intimate. Public distance, private pressure. "You're enjoying this," she whispered. I sipped my drink. Let the ice click once in the glass. Small sounds can feel like thunder when someone's waiting for you to explode. "I'm enjoying the cake," I said. "It's surprisingly good." Her nostrils flared. The urge to slap me again flickered across her face, but she caught herself. Not in front of witnesses, not in front of cameras. She was still performing. "This is fixable," she said, voice low and fast. "We'll post a follow-up. You'll look like the hero. People will love it." I turned my head slightly toward her, just enough to show I was listening. "People," I repeated. Nora blinked, like she hadn't realized she'd said the quiet part out loud. Tessa leaned in from the other side, sweet as poison. "Honestly, it's kind of iconic. The singles mixer thing? That was... wow. If we edit it right..." "Don't," I said. Not loud, just final. Tessa's smile twitched. Nora's hand touched my forearm, not affectionate, possessive. A reminder. "You're mine. You don't get to go off script." "I need you to act normal," she hissed. "Just for tonight. Don't embarrass me more." I looked past her at the dance floor. A bridesmaid from her side was already dancing with one of my coworkers. The DJ had pivoted from wedding romance to people trying to forget what they witnessed. Humans will dance on top of anything if you give them enough alcohol and a beat. "Normal," I said. "Like saying no at the altar?" Her eyes flashed. "It was a trend. Everybody does it." "That's the thing," I said softly. "Not everybody." For a second, the mask slipped. Under it, there was panic. Not because she hurt me, because she'd lost control of the room, and control was the only thing she'd ever loved consistently. "Come home with me," she said, switching tactics. A gentler voice, a small shake in it. "We'll talk. We'll laugh about it later. Please." I could have said no right then, but I wanted to see the rest of the play, so I nodded once. "Fine. We'll go." Her shoulders relaxed, just a fraction. Victory. She thought she'd pulled me back into orbit. Tessa's eyes darted between us, calculating how to frame it. The reconciliation, the tearful hug. The caption? "We got you guys." Nora squeezed my arm. "Good. Smile. People are watching." So I smiled, and I let them watch. We stayed another 20 minutes, long enough for the party to settle into its second life, long enough for Nora to act like the situation had been resolved by her sheer willpower, long enough for me to notice something else. Every time her purse buzzed, she didn't reach for her main phone. She reached for the side pocket, the one with the cheap second phone. She didn't answer it in front of people. She just checked it, quick, then shoved it back like it was a hot coin. Then her gaze flicked to the exit, not toward me, toward the door, toward freedom, toward whoever was waiting on the other side of the night. When we finally left, Nora walked ahead of me, heels angry on the pavement. Tessa followed, still filming little behind-the-scenes scraps, still laughing too loudly like laughter could stitch the night back together. In the parking lot, Nora turned, face lit by the overhead sodium light that makes everyone look guilty. "Give me your keys," she said. I raised an eyebrow. "Why?" "I'm driving," she snapped. "I don't trust you to not do something dramatic." I handed her the keys, not because she deserved them, because I wanted to see what she'd do when she thought she was in control. On the drive home, she kept the radio on too loud, a playlist that had been curated for the wedding, now sounding like a joke with teeth. She stared straight ahead, jaw tight, one hand on the wheel, the other gripping her phone, her main phone, like she was trying to prove it was the only one that mattered. Tessa sat in the back seat like a little court reporter, tapping on her screen, editing, writing captions, rehearsing excuses. I watched Nora's reflection in the rearview mirror, the way her eyes kept flicking down to her lap, the way her purse sat between us like a living thing, the way her whole body tightened whenever it buzzed. At a red light, her purse vibrated again. Nora's hand shot to it before she could stop herself. She caught me looking. "It's just my mom," she lied, too fast. I nodded slowly like I believed her. "Of course," Tessa chimed in from the back. "Her mom has been so intense lately." Nora didn't even glance at her. She just stared at the light until it turned green, then accelerated like she could outrun the night. At home, she kicked off her shoes, tossed her veil onto the couch like it was trash, and headed straight for the bathroom. "Don't start anything," she called over her shoulder. "I'm exhausted." The bathroom door shut. The shower turned on, full blast, immediate. Not a shower for cleanliness, a shower for cover. Tessa hovered in the living room, still on her phone. "You should maybe post something," she said without looking up. Like a joke, to control the narrative. I sat down calmly. "You can go." Tessa blinked, finally looking at me. "Excuse me?" "You've done enough for tonight," I said. "Go home, get some sleep, charge your phone." Her cheeks flushed. "I'm not leaving Nora." "You're not staying for Nora," I said. I kept my voice mild, almost bored. "You're staying for the footage." Tessa's mouth opened, then snapped shut. I'd hit something true, and truth has a way of making people angry when they are used to lying professionally. "She didn't mean it like that," Tessa said, defensive. I shrugged. "People mean exactly what they do," Nora called from the bathroom, voice muffled by running water. "Tess? Don't listen to him." Tessa hesitated. Then her phone buzzed, someone texting her, probably asking how the prank went, probably hungry for details. Her eyes lit up. Addicts recognize their supply. She grabbed her coat. "Whatever, you're being weird." "I've always been weird," I said. "You just thought it was harmless." Tessa left with a dramatic slam of the door that was meant to punish me. It didn't. Doors are just doors when you've already watched someone try to turn your life into a clip. Silence filled the apartment, except for the roar of the shower. I didn't move right away. I listened. The apartment had that late-night hum, fridge motor, distant traffic, pipes, ordinary sounds, but now they felt like the soundtrack to a different genre. Then Nora's purse vibrated again. It was on the kitchen counter. She must have set it down without thinking when she rushed to the bathroom. The side pocket faced me. I stared at it. I didn't touch it. I waited. Buzz, buzz. A third vibration, longer, more urgent. And then, something I hadn't expected. The second phone started ringing. Not a gentle ringtone, a raw, default electronic chirp that sounded cheap and impatient. I sat perfectly still, watching the purse shake slightly with each ring like it wanted to crawl off the counter. The shower kept running. Nora couldn't hear it. Or she was pretending not to. The phone rang until it stopped. Then a message lit up the screen through the thin fabric of the pocket. This time, it stayed bright long enough for me to read it clearly. "Answer. He saw the video. We need to talk now." My stomach didn't drop. It clicked. Because that meant two things at once. One, whoever this was, he'd already seen what happened at the altar. And two, he wasn't just a secret. He was involved enough to be panicking. The shower shut off. I heard the bathroom door open. I heard Nora's footsteps padding down the hall. And I watched as her purse vibrated again. One last time, like a warning. Nora appeared in the doorway, hair wet, wrapped in a towel, face reset into something calm. Then her eyes went straight to the kitchen counter, straight to the purse, straight to the pocket that was glowing faintly. And for the first time all night, her voice wasn't angry or playful. It was small. "Why is that out here?" Nora froze in the doorway like the apartment had shifted its rules while she was in the shower. Her eyes stayed on the purse, not on me. That told me everything I needed to know. "I must have set it down," she said, too carefully. Her voice was wrapped in casual, but the seams were showing. "Can you?" The second phone buzzed again, short, sharp, impatient. She flinched. I leaned back in the chair and crossed my arms, not blocking her path, not challenging her, just existing. Calm is terrifying when someone expects a fight. "You don't need to explain," I said. "You're tired." She swallowed, took a step forward. Another buzz. "Stop looking at me like that," she snapped, anger rushing in to cover the fear. "You're making this weird." I didn't say anything, I replied. She grabbed the purse, fingers shaking now, and turned away from me, thumb already fishing for the zipper. Who is it? I asked lightly, like I was asking about the weather. Nobody. The lie came so fast it almost impressed me. She disappeared into the bedroom and shut the door harder than necessary. Not a slam, just enough force to communicate don't follow. I didn't. I stayed where I was and listened. The apartment wasn't big. Sound traveled, especially when someone thought a closed door was privacy. I heard the zipper, the rustle of fabric, the unmistakable click of a phone unlocking. Silence. Then her voice, low and urgent. What do you want? A pause. No, you don't get to freak out right now. Another pause. Longer. I told you it was a joke. I smiled to myself. People always think calling something a joke will downgrade the damage, like intent erases impact. I stood quietly and walked toward the bedroom door. Not to eavesdrop, not to press my ear against it. I stopped a few feet away, close enough that she could feel me there if she was paying attention. I didn't plan it like that, she hissed. I didn't think he'd... She stopped. I imagined the other man on the line, somewhere not here, somewhere safe, watching the altar clip on loop, rewinding the part where she said no, watching my face as the room turned, watching the comments pile up. I knocked once on the door, not loud, just enough. Her voice spiked. I can't talk right now. I leaned in, just enough for my voice to carry through the wood. I'm going for a walk, I said. I'll give you space. Relief washed through her tone instantly. Good. Thank you. Thank you. I grabbed my jacket and keys, letting them jingle just enough to sell the performance. Then I left the apartment, closed the door softly behind me, and walked down the hall like a man doing exactly what he said he would. I waited, counted to 60. Then I turned around and walked back. I didn't unlock the door. I just stood outside it, close enough to hear, far enough to not be obvious. The building was old, thin walls, thin doors, thin illusions. Inside, Nora's voice had changed. No audience, no camera, just urgency. He's suspicious now, she said. Because you panicked. A pause. No, I'm not choosing him. Don't be dramatic. Another pause. I'm handling it. I felt something settle in my chest. Not rage, certainty. She was managing two narratives, and she was bad at it. I stepped back before she could sense me, walked to the stairwell, took the stairs down like a good fiancé giving space. Outside, the night was cool and sharp. The city hummed, indifferent. I stood under a streetlight that flickered just enough to feel unreliable and checked my phone. Notifications were already coming in, clips from the wedding, screenshots, messages from people I barely knew. Man, that was wild. Are you okay? Did she really? I ignored them. Instead, I opened a group chat I hadn't touched in months. Old work contacts, people from a previous project. Not friends, observers. The kind of people who notice patterns because they don't care emotionally. I typed one line. Anyone know a guy named Evan who lives near Brookline? Mid-30s, dark SUV. I didn't send it right away. I waited. Because timing matters. I walked. Let the city stretch around me, past bars spilling laughter onto the sidewalk, past couples leaning into each other like gravity was optional. 15 minutes later, my phone buzzed. Unknown contact. Yeah. Why? I stopped walking, typed back. Just curious. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. He work in real estate now, used to do development. Why? Real estate. Development. I exhaled slowly through my nose. That explained the confidence. The house, the neighborhood. The way Nora had been talking lately, suddenly opinionated about property, investments, future planning that hadn't included me. I thanked the contact and ended the conversation without answering their question. Then I did something else. I turned around, walked back toward the apartment. When I opened the door, Nora was in the living room, fully dressed now, second phone gone, main phone in hand. She looked up like a child caught mid-lie. You're back already, she said. I nodded. Forgot my wallet. Her shoulders loosened again. Relief came easily to her. Too easily. I was just about to message you, she said, brightening. We should talk. Like, really talk. Sure, I said. In a minute. I walked past her to the kitchen counter. The purse was gone, but the counter wasn't clean. There was a faint rectangular outline where the second phone had been charging earlier. A smudge, a habit mark. Small things tell big stories. Nora watched me too closely. What are you looking for? I turned and met her eyes. Nothing, I said. Just getting my bearings. She laughed. Too loud. You're being cryptic. It's annoying. I picked up my wallet from the table, then paused. Quick question, I said casually. When you left the apartment earlier this week, Tuesday night, where did you go? Her answer was immediate. Dinner with Tessa, I nodded. Where? She hesitated. Half a second too long. Downtown. Which place? Her jaw tightened. Why are you interrogating me? I'm not, I said. I'm remembering. Silence stretched between us. Then her phone buzzed. She glanced down before she could stop herself. Her face drained of color. I smiled gently. Is that Evan? I asked. The room went very still. Her eyes snapped up to mine. How do you... She stopped. Because she knew exactly how. And for the first time since the altar, I saw it clearly in her face. Not fear of losing me, fear of being seen. I think, I said softly, you should tell me how this started. She opened her mouth, closed it. Behind her calm eyes, something shifted. A calculation, a choice being weighed, and I understood in that moment that whatever story she told next would decide how much of her life I let her keep. Nora sat down slowly, like gravity had doubled without warning. She didn't answer right away. She pressed her lips together, eyes drifting toward the window, toward the city lights like they might offer a script. When she finally spoke, her voice was measured, careful in a way that told me this wasn't confession. It was negotiation. It wasn't like that, she said. I leaned against the counter, arms crossed, giving her space to build whatever version of reality she thought might survive. It always is, I replied. She shot me a look. Don't do that. Don't turn everything into a line. I'm not, I said. I'm listening. She exhaled, long and theatrical. I met Evan through work, a site visit. He was helpful, confident, or he actually listens when I talk. There it was, the classic opening line. Not lust, validation. And? I prompted. And nothing, she snapped. At first, we talked, that's it. I nodded. Of course. Her eyes narrowed. Why are you being so calm? Because I was already past the point of needing answers. Now I was just mapping damage. When did it stop being nothing? I asked. She looked away again, this time longer. A few months ago, she admitted, after you started checking out. I smiled faintly. Checking out. You were distracted, she said quickly, seizing the thread. Work, stress. You were always tired. I felt invisible. Invisible. The word people use when they want to disappear from responsibility. So you slept with him, I said. She flinched like I'd raised my voice. It wasn't, she began. I held up a finger, not accusing, just precise. Answer the question. Her throat bobbed. Yes. The word landed quietly. No thunder, just confirmation. I let a few seconds pass, long enough for the truth to breathe. And Tuesday? I asked. Dinner with Tessa? She shook her head. No, I went to his place. I nodded again, logged it. Tuesday, Brookline, house. And tonight, I said, tilting my head, the altar. Was that for him too? Her eyes flicked up, sharp. What? The prank, I said. Was it really for TikTok? Or was it for Evan? To prove something? She stared at me like I just rearranged the furniture in her mind. That's insane. Is it? I asked. Because if I were him, watching you say no to me in front of everyone, I'd feel pretty powerful. Her mouth opened, closed. She didn't deny it. That wasn't the plan, she said finally, quieter now. I just didn't think. That, I said gently, has been very clear. Silence pressed in on us, thick, uncomfortable. Then she stood up abruptly and started pacing, agitation replacing strategy. Okay, fine, she said. Yes, I was seeing him, but it didn't mean anything. It was just an escape. From what? I asked. She turned on me. From being ordinary, from being predictable, from feeling like my life was already decided. I watched her, really watched her, the way her hands moved, the way she needed motion when she didn't have control. You said yes to me, I said. Until tonight? She laughed bitterly. You think saying yes fixes everything? No, I replied, but saying no on camera breaks it permanently. Her phone buzzed. She froze. Didn't look at it, didn't have to. He keeps calling, doesn't he? I asked. She closed her eyes. He's panicking. Because? I pressed. Because he thinks you're dangerous, she said. I laughed. It slipped out before I could stop it. That's generous. She looked at me like she didn't recognize me anymore, and that was new. That was good. You don't get it, she said. Evan doesn't lose. Not like this. He's used to controlling situations. People. So are you, I said. Which is why this hurts. She shook her head, voice rising. You're acting like you won something. I didn't win, I said. I woke up. Her phone buzzed again. This time she answered it. Stop calling, she snapped. I told you I'm handling it. I stepped closer. Not into her space, just enough to be present. Tell him, I said quietly, that I know where he lives. Her eyes widened. Don't. Tell him, I repeated, calm, unmoving. She hesitated. Then slowly she lifted the phone. He knows, she said into it. Yes, he knows. A muffled voice crackled through the speaker. I couldn't hear words, but I heard tone, sharp, demanding, afraid. Nora's face tightened. No, she said. You don't get to tell me what to do. Another burst of sound. She pulled the phone away, stared at it like it had insulted her, then ended the call. Her hands were shaking now. What did he say? I asked. She swallowed. He said, This isn't over. I smiled. A real one this time. That's funny, I said. Because for you, it is. Her head snapped up. What does that mean? I picked up my jacket. It means, I said, heading toward the door, that tonight was just the introduction. She stepped in front of me, blocking my path. Desperation stripped the polish from her face. You can't just walk away, she said. We need to talk this through. We are, I replied. Just not together. I opened the door. Behind me, her voice cracked, not crying, something worse. Where are you going? I paused on the threshold. To see Evan's neighborhood, I said calmly. Up close. Her breath caught. I turned back just enough to meet her eyes. Don't worry, I added. I'm not going to hurt him. I let the pause stretch. I'm just going to make sure he never forgets me. Then I stepped out into the hallway, the door closing softly behind me, leaving Nora alone with the sound of her phone lighting up again. The night air had that strange electric stillness cities get after midnight, quiet but alert, like everything's listening, the kind of silence that makes engines echo longer, footsteps sharper, thoughts louder. I drove her car, not because I wanted to, because it was poetic. Her Lexus, the one she swore she bought for both of us, though somehow only she ever drove it. I left my own keys on purpose, let her watch me take hers. The navigation system was still synced to her phone. Recent destinations glowed on the screen like a confession. And there it was. Brookline. The address of the man who doesn't lose. I didn't hurry. Revenge isn't about speed, it's about precision. The streets grew quieter as the buildings turned into money. Big windows, iron gates, hedges trimmed by people who hate asymmetry. I parked a block away, engine off, and just sat. The house was modern, black glass and smug lighting. It looked like it had been designed to show off everything except warmth. A single car in the driveway, a charcoal SUV. Same one I'd seen when I'd followed Nora before. I watched the place for a while. Curtains open, no movement, no lights except one upstairs. Probably his office. Probably where he was pacing, waiting for Nora's call, telling himself he still had control. I stepped out of the car. The night wrapped around me, cool and patient. I walked toward the house, not like a man sneaking, but like a man who belonged there. People don't question confidence, they question hesitation. At the curb, I saw something glint, a small metal plate by the gate. Private security monitoring, I smiled. I'd counted on that. People like Evan buy cameras to feel safe, not to be careful. They forget the angles, the blind spots. The world's full of blind spots. The driveway gate was half open, the kind of mistake you make when you think nobody would dare. I slipped in. The SUV sat gleaming under a motion light, spotless, smug. I pulled the small metal rod from my pocket, a tire iron from Nora's trunk, not for violence, for theater. I crouched, loosened the valve caps, pressed the tool just enough to let out a soft hiss. Not slashing, too loud, too final. Just a slow, steady leak, a delayed message. Then I reached into my jacket and pulled out something better, her veil. I'd taken it from the couch before leaving, the same veil she'd thrown aside like a used napkin. I looped it around his driver's side mirror, tied it into a neat bow, let it flutter in the breeze, white against the black paint. Beautiful, wrong, impossible to miss. Then I took a photo. Not of the house, just the car, with the veil. A perfect little symbol. His prize, marked. I sent it to Nora's phone with no caption. Then I sent the same picture to the unknown number that had been calling her second phone earlier. Seconds later, a light switched on upstairs. Movement. A silhouette crossing the window. Fast. Then slower. Looking down. I waited, leaned against the gate, hands in my pockets. Let him see me. Let him wonder. Another light flicked on. Downstairs this time. Then the sound. Front door. Opening just an inch. Who's there? The voice matched the arrogance. Polished, smooth, just a little afraid now. I didn't answer, just turned slightly toward him, letting the motion sensor catch my face in half-light. You should check your car, I said. Calm. Even. He hesitated. Who are you? I'm the joke, I said. You just don't get the punchline yet. And then I walked away. Behind me, I heard his footsteps on the driveway. Hurried, nervous, the shuffle of someone realizing they're not untouchable. The sharp intake of breath when he saw the veil, the hiss of air leaving his tires. Perfect. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. By the time I got to the corner, my phone buzzed. Unknown number again. I answered this time. You think this is funny? Evan's voice. Low, tight, hiding fear under anger. I think it's accurate, I said. You like symbols, right? Property, status, women who belong to someone else. Stay away from me, he said. You're making a mistake. I already made one, I said. But don't worry, I'm fixing it. Silence. Then a car alarm chirped faintly through the speaker. His own, probably. The kind of sound that tells you your control just cracked a little. I'm calling the police, he said finally. You should, I said. You'll need someone to tell the story for you. I doubt Nora will. Then I hung up. As I walked back to the car, the city felt different. Not safer. Just honest. People like Evan think consequences are negotiable. People like Nora think humiliation evaporates if you film it in good lighting. But the thing about public embarrassment, it lingers. It rots reputations quietly from the inside out. By the time I got home, her phone had called me 7 times. I didn't answer any. When I finally opened the door, the apartment lights were off. But she was there, sitting on the couch, phone clutched in her hands like a weapon that kept misfiring. You went there, she said, not a question. A realization. I nodded. He says hi. Her face went pale. What did you do? Less than I wanted, I said. More than he expected. She stood, voice shaking. You're insane. Maybe, I said. But at least I'm not stupid. Her breath came faster. You can't just... Oh, I can, I said softly. And I will. Because the difference between a prank and revenge... I stepped closer. Close enough that she had to tilt her chin up to keep my gaze. Is that mine doesn't need an audience. The phone in her hand buzzed again. She looked down, then at me, her voice trembling now. He sent me a photo, she whispered. I smiled. Good. Let him know he's not the only one who can document things. Then I walked past her toward the bedroom, because I wasn't finished yet. This was only Act 2, and the real performance hadn't even started. I slept in my clothes. Not because I was exhausted, because sleep, real sleep, requires a future you're willing to wake up to. That night, I was still dismantling mine. I woke before dawn to the sound of Nora pacing, bare feet on hardwood, back and forth, the rhythm of someone rehearsing explanations that won't save them. I stayed still, let her forget I was awake. Her phone buzzed again. She answered it in a whisper that tried and failed to sound calm. No, she said. Pause. I told you, don't come here. Another pause, sharper this time. Because he knows where you live, Evan. That's why. I opened my eyes. So he was escalating. Good. Men like him don't know how not to. I sat up slowly, letting the bed creak just enough. Nora jumped like she'd been shot. You scared me, she snapped. You've been doing that all night, I said. She dragged a hand through her hair, eyes wild now, mascara faintly smudged from crying she'd deny. He's freaking out, she said. He thinks you're going to ruin him. I swung my legs off the bed. I'm not thinking about his career. Her laugh cracked. You already did something to his car. Temporary, I said. Like trust. She stared at me, trying to recalibrate. What do you want? The question came out wrong. Not, what can I do to fix this? So just what's the price? I stood and walked past her to the kitchen. Made coffee. The mundane sounds, water, machine clicking. felt obscene against the tension. I want honesty, I said finally. She scoffed. Now? Yes, now. Because you don't get another version later. She leaned against the counter, arms crossed like armor. Fine, ask. I turned to her. How long has he been in your life before the cheating? Her eyes shifted. Not away, sideways. That's not fair. That's not an answer. She inhaled sharply. Since last year. I let that sink in. Before the proposal, I said. Yes. Before the ring, before the planning, before the vows, she turned into a joke. And the wedding? I asked. Did you ever intend to say yes? She hesitated. Just long enough. Something in me went very still. I thought I would, she said carefully. Until it felt real. Real, I repeated. She nodded. Evan made me feel like I still had options. There it was. I laughed. Not loud, just a single breath that escaped me. You know the irony, I said. You already had options. You just wanted them to clap. Her phone rang again. This time she didn't answer. Instead, she held it out to me, screen up. Evan calling. Put it on speaker, I said. Her eyes widened. No. Put it on speaker, I repeated, calm enough to be frightening. She hesitated, then tapped the screen. Hello? She said. His voice came through tight and fast. What the hell is wrong with him? I smiled into my coffee. Nora winced. Lower your voice. You said he wouldn't do anything, Evan snapped. Now my neighbors are asking questions. Someone posted the wedding clip in a local group. Ah, so the ripple had started. I didn't post anything, I said into the phone. Silence. Then, who is that? I took the phone from Nora's hand gently. It's the man you underestimated, I said. You should stop calling my fiancé. Ex, Nora whispered. I ignored her. You don't scare me, Evan said, forcing steel into his voice. You crossed a line. No, I replied. I drew one. You think this ends well for you? I glanced at Nora, who looked smaller by the second. It already has, I said. You just don't know which part yet. I hung up and set the phone down. Nora stared at me like she was finally seeing the outline of something she couldn't control. This is spiraling, she said. People are going to talk? Yes, I said. They always do after a wedding. She shook her head. You're enjoying this. No, I said honestly. I'm using it. Her voice dropped. What are you planning? I stepped closer, close enough that she had to look up. I'm giving you what you wanted, I said quietly. A story. Her lips parted. Please don't do this. Don't do what? I asked. Make it real? She turned away, breaking. I never meant to hurt you. I nodded. That's the difference between us. She looked back, tears finally spilling, unfiltered now. What happens next? She asked. I picked up my keys. Next, I said, heading for the door. You find out what happens when the joke stops being funny. Behind me, she whispered my name. I didn't turn around, because I wasn't chasing closure anymore. I was setting timing. And somewhere across the city, Evan was waking up to the fact that fear doesn't come from violence. It comes from certainty. By mid-morning, the city had decided what the story was. Not the truth, the version people could digest. Clips from the altar were everywhere now, trimmed, captioned, slowed down for maximum discomfort. Nora's laugh, my pause. The moment I took the microphone, someone had added text over my face. When the groom doesn't panic. I watched it once. That was enough. Nora sat at the kitchen table with her laptop open, refreshing feeds like she could drown the momentum with attention. Every few seconds, her phone lit up. She didn't answer any of them. You should post something, she said without looking up. Clarify. Clarify what? I asked. That it was a joke. That we're working through things. I poured another coffee. We're not. Her fingers froze on the keyboard. You don't get to decide that alone, she said. I finally looked at her. Really looked. The woman who'd rehearsed a public rejection had no tolerance for a quiet one. I decided it at the altar, I said. You just didn't notice. She pushed the laptop away, standing abruptly. You're punishing me. No, I replied. I stopped protecting you. That landed. She wrapped her arms around herself, like the room had gone cold. My boss called, she said after a moment. Asked if everything was okay. And I told him yes, that it was performance art. I laughed. Did he believe you? She didn't answer. I checked my phone. A message waited from an unfamiliar number. Unknown. You're enjoying this too much. I typed back. You're imagining things. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. We need to talk, man to man. I smiled. Nora noticed. Who is that? Evan, I said. He wants a conversation. Her face drained. Please don't meet him. I'm not meeting him, I said. He's meeting himself. She stepped toward me, panic leaking through the cracks. You don't know what he's like. I know exactly what he's like, I replied. He's used to leverage without resistance. My phone buzzed again. Name a place, I answered. Tonight, parking garage on Larchmont. 9 p.m. Nora grabbed my arm. Don't. I gently removed her hand. You already chose sides, I said. You just assumed I wouldn't. She shook her head, voice breaking. This is going to end badly. Yes, I said, just not for me. I left her there, standing in a kitchen full of wedding leftovers and unfinished lies, and spent the rest of the day doing very boring things. I worked, I answered emails, I walked through the world like a man whose life hadn't cracked open overnight. That's the trick. You don't let chaos see you sweat. At 8:45, I arrived at the garage. Concrete, fluorescent lights, the kind of place where sound travels too far and shadows linger too long. I parked near the center, engine off, door open. No hiding, no ambush, just presence. Evan arrived at 8:58. Same SUV, different posture. He stepped out stiffly, jacket still on despite the heat, eyes scanning corners like he'd watched too many movies. He looked ordinary. That was the funniest part. You got nerve, he said, stopping a few feet away. I had practice, I replied. He glanced at my hands. Empty. You trying to scare me? I already did, I said. You came. His jaw tightened. You think slashing my tires makes you tough? I didn't slash them, I corrected. I inconvenienced you. He scoffed. You crossed a line. You crossed several, I said calmly. I'm just better at remembering where they were. He stepped closer. Too close. A test. I don't owe you anything, he said. Nora came to me. I nodded. She always goes where she thinks she's admired. That hit. I saw it in his eyes. The flash of irritation. Not guilt. Ego bruise. She's confused, he said. You two weren't right. Then you should have waited, I replied. Or left. He smiled thinly. You think you're some kind of threat? I stepped into his space, just enough that he had to lean back. No, I said quietly. I'm the consequence. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. Showed him the screen. A still frame from the video. His SUV, Nora's veil tied to the mirror. I know where you live, I said. I know when you're not there. I know which neighbors talk. His breath hitched. He recovered fast, but not fast enough. You do anything else? He said, lowering his voice. And You'll what? I interrupted. Explain to people why your car was part of a wedding that wasn't yours? He stared at me now. Really stared. You think this ends with a scare? He asked. No, I said. This ends when you disappear from my life. He laughed, sharp. You can't control that. I smiled. I don't have to. I stepped back, gave him space again. Balance restored. Lose my number, I said. Lose hers. Or the next symbol won't be decorative. I turned and walked away. Behind me, I heard him exhale. Long, shaky. A man recalculating risk. When I got back to the car, my phone buzzed. Nora, I didn't answer. Because somewhere between the altar and the garage, the roles had shifted. She wasn't the one deciding what happened next anymore. And Evan had just learned the most important rule of all. You don't mock a man in public and expect privacy afterward. I didn't go home, not right away. I drove past our building, past the familiar turn, and kept going until the city thinned out into something quieter. A place where the streetlights were farther apart and the dark had room to stretch. I parked under one of those lights and sat with the engine off, letting the silence settle. My phone buzzed again. Nora, then again, then a message. Nora, please come back. We need to talk before you do something irreversible. I almost laughed. Almost. People like Nora believe everything is reversible as long as you catch it in time. As long as you apologize with enough sincerity and the right lighting. I typed back one line. Some things only feel irreversible when they stop benefiting you. I didn't wait for her reply. I drove. When I finally returned to the apartment, it was close to midnight. The lights were on. All of them. Like she'd been trying to keep the shadows out. Nora sat on the couch, knees pulled to her chest, phone in her hand. She looked up when I walked in, relief flooding her face before she remembered she was supposed to be angry. "You met him," she said. "Yes." Her voice shook. "What did he say?" "He talked," I replied. "Like men do when they're losing leverage." She stood up too fast. "You can't keep doing this." "I'm not doing anything," I said. "I'm letting consequences arrive." She paced, hands flying now. "He's dangerous." "No," I said calmly. "He's embarrassed." That word landed hard. She stopped pacing. "You don't know him." "I know his type," I said. Confident when nobody pushes back, loud when they feel cornered, quiet when they realize they miscalculated. Her shoulders sagged. "You're enjoying humiliating him." "No," I said again. "I'm enjoying clarity." She rubbed her temples. "What do you want from me?" There it was again, the price question. I took off my jacket, folded it carefully, placed it on the chair. Small, deliberate movements. They made her nervous. "I want you to tell the truth," I said. "Not to me, to everyone." Her head snapped up. "What?" "The prank," I continued. "The affair. Evan, the second phone. All of it." Her laugh was brittle. "That would destroy me." I nodded. "Yes." "You're asking me to ruin my own life." "No," I corrected. "I'm asking you to stop outsourcing it." She shook her head, tears forming again. "People will hate me." "People already see you," I said. "You just don't like the angle." She backed away from me, fear sharp now. "You're doing this because you want revenge. I'm doing this because I won't carry your lie anymore." Silence stretched between us. Finally, she whispered, "And if I don't?" I met her gaze, steady. "Then I finish it myself." Her breath hitched. "How?" I didn't answer right away. Instead, I walked to the bookshelf and pulled out the small black folder she thought I didn't know about, the one tucked behind old manuals and unopened mail, the one she used to store things she wanted hidden but accessible. Her face drained of color. "You went through my stuff?" "I noticed patterns," I said. "You leave things where you think I won't look." I opened the folder. Inside, printed emails, screenshots, calendar invites, hotel receipts she never expensed. Not proof of crimes, proof of choices, the kind of paper trail people create when they assume no one will ever bother connecting it. Her knees buckled. She sat down hard. "You promised," she whispered. "I promised to marry you," I replied. "You changed the terms." She stared at the folder like it was a live thing. "You show that to anyone," she said, voice hollow, "and I'm finished." I closed it. "Then you should decide who tells the story," I said. "You or me." Her phone buzzed again. She didn't check it this time. She already knew who it was. I walked toward the bedroom, then stopped. "One more thing," I said without turning around. "What?" she whispered. "I'm keeping the ring." Her voice broke completely. "Why?" I turned just enough to see her face. "Because," I said, "it's the only thing in this apartment that still means what it was supposed to." I went into the bedroom and shut the door. Behind it, I heard her slide down the couch, sobbing now. Real sobs, not camera-ready. I lay on the bed and stared at the ceiling, listening to the sounds of a life rearranging itself without permission. Tomorrow she would have to choose confession or exposure. And either way, someone else was about to lose everything they thought was stable, not because I raised my voice, but because I stopped lowering it. Morning didn't soften anything. It just made the damage easier to see. Sunlight poured through the blinds like it had something to prove, striping the bedroom walls and cutting across the bed where I lay awake, fully dressed, staring at a future that no longer needed my participation. I heard Nora before I saw her, the quiet, careful sounds of someone trying not to exist too loudly. A cabinet opening, a mug set down too gently, the kind of movements people make when they hope restraint will be mistaken for remorse. I got up and walked into the kitchen. She was already there, same clothes as last night, hair pulled back without intention, eyes swollen, red-rimmed, raw. No makeup, no armor. For the first time since I'd known her, she looked ordinary. "I didn't sleep," she said. "I know," I replied. "Neither did I." She nodded like that mattered. "I've been thinking," she said, "about what you said, about telling the truth." I poured myself coffee. Black. No room for softness. "And?" I asked. She swallowed. "I can make a statement. Something controlled. Admit the prank went too far. Apologize. Leave out Evan." I turned slowly and looked at her. "That's not truth," I said. "That's editing." Her shoulders sagged. You don't understand what you're asking. I understand exactly, I replied. You want to keep your image intact? You want me to absorb the rest of the damage like I always have? That's not fair, she said, voice rising. I'm trying. No, I said calmly. You're bargaining. She slammed her mug down harder than necessary. Coffee sloshed over the rim. If I say everything, she snapped, he'll come after me. I tilted my head. Evan? She nodded. That's interesting, I said, because last night he sounded more worried about himself. Her eyes flicked up. What did you do? Nothing illegal, I said. Nothing dramatic. I just made sure he understood that the world is smaller than he thought. She hugged herself. You don't know what he's capable of. I know what men like him are incapable of, I said. Owning their actions. Silence filled the kitchen. Heavy. Final. Then her phone buzzed on the counter. She stared at it like it might explode. I didn't have to look to know who it was. Answer it, I said. Her head snapped up. No. Answer it, I repeated. Same tone. Same finality. Her hand trembled as she picked up the phone. She didn't put it on speaker this time. She just answered, pressing it to her ear. What? She whispered. I watched her face change as she listened. Fear, then anger, then something like realization. No, she said. You don't get to tell me what to do anymore. I raised an eyebrow. She pulled the phone away, stared at the screen, then ended the call. Her breathing was shallow now. He's scared, she said quietly. He wants me to deny everything. Say you're unstable. I smiled. Of course he does. She looked at me like she was finally seeing the board clearly. He said if I don't, he'll ruin me. And if you do? I asked. She laughed weakly. Then he still might. Exactly, I said. So choose the version where you're honest. She sank into the chair, defeated. What are you going to do? She asked. I picked up the black folder from the counter where I'd left it deliberately. I'm giving you one last courtesy, I said. 12 hours. 12 hours for what? To tell the story yourself, I said. Publicly, clearly, no filters, no spin. And if I don't? I met her eyes. Then tonight, I said, I finish what you started at the altar. Her breath caught. What does that mean? I leaned down, close enough that she could hear the calm certainty in my voice. It means, I said, everyone who laughed yesterday will understand why. I straightened, grabbed my jacket, and headed for the door. Behind me, her voice cracked. You're not the man I thought you were. I paused with my hand on the knob. You're right, I said. The man you thought I was would have stayed quiet. I opened the door. And you already tried that version on camera. The door closed behind me, soft but absolute. Outside, the city moved on. People headed to work, coffee shops filled, lives continued, unaware that by nightfall a story was about to complete itself. I walked toward my car, phone vibrating in my pocket. A new message. Unknown. You think you've won. You haven't. I stopped. Typed one line back. Neither have you. Then I got in the car. Because the final act doesn't announce itself. It just arrives. Nora didn't break elegantly. There was no dramatic speech, no apology tour, no soft music. She broke the way people do when they realize the story will be told with or without them. I didn't hear it from her. I saw it because 3 different people forwarded me the same link within 5 minutes. When someone collapses publicly, the internet becomes very efficient. She posted a video, no filters, no edits, no captions trying to steer sympathy, just her kitchen, daylight, same counter where she'd rehearsed lies, same chair where she'd bargained for silence. Her voice didn't shake. That was the scariest part. She said the wedding prank wasn't a joke. She said it was cruel. She said she had been unfaithful. She said she used humiliation as entertainment. She said she didn't expect consequences. She didn't say Evan's name. She didn't have to. People are very good at filling in blanks when they're motivated. The comments detonated immediately. Some defended her. Most didn't. A few recognized the house in the background. A few more connected dates, locations, tags. Someone stitched the altar clip beside her confession. Another added screenshots of Evan's SUV from a neighborhood group post. Patterns formed. By the time I finished watching, her phone was probably unusable. Mine buzzed. Unknown. She talked. I didn't respond. 10 minutes later. This needs to stop. That one made me smile. Because this was the moment men like Evan hate most. When control dissolves without anyone asking permission. I left my apartment and drove. Not to confront him. To finish something. The open house was busy. That's what happens when a neighborhood senses trouble. People show up pretending to browse while secretly hoping to witness something human and messy. Evan stood near the kitchen island, jacket off, sleeves rolled, performing confidence like it was muscle memory, smiling too often, laughing a half-second late, the same house, the same glass walls, now full of strangers. I walked in like I belonged there, because I did. He saw me across the room. For a fraction of a second, the smile didn't make it to his eyes. I didn't rush him. I let him watch me exist among potential buyers, neighbors, curiosity tourists. Let the paranoia do its work. When I finally stopped beside him, I didn't raise my voice. "You should disclose the foundation issue," I said casually. He stiffened. "What?" "The drainage flaw," I continued, still calm. "North corner. You patched it cosmetically. It'll fail after the first hard winter." His jaw tightened. "You don't know what you're talking about." A woman nearby paused, pretending to examine a brochure while clearly listening. "I also wouldn't downplay the noise complaints," I added, "or the HOA dispute you're still technically in." That got attention. He leaned in, voice low and angry. "You need to leave." "I will," I said, "right after you understand something." I met his eyes. "You didn't steal my fiancée," I said quietly. "You borrowed someone who was already looking for applause." His face flushed. "You think this ruins me?" "No," I said. "This teaches you something worse." He scoffed. "Which is?" I stepped back, giving him space, the way you do when the damage is already done. "That privacy," I said, "is a privilege you don't get after laughing at someone in public." A buyer asked a question about the backyard. Evan turned to answer it, instinctively, and that was the moment. His phone buzzed, then buzzed again, then again. He checked it, his face changed. Not fear, calculation collapsing, because the listing had just been pulled. The comments had found him. The video had crossed into his professional orbit. I didn't wait for him to react. I walked toward the door, passing strangers who didn't know why the room felt tense, only that something was off. At the threshold, I turned back once. "This is where it ends," I said. "Not with yelling, not with threats." He stared at me, hollow now. "With memory," I finished. "People don't forget how you entered their lives." I stepped outside. The door closed behind me. Inside, Evan stood frozen in a house that suddenly felt too transparent. I didn't check my phone. I didn't look back. Because revenge isn't loud. It's quiet. It's permanent. And it doesn't need an audience once the lesson has landed.